Hello and welcome to record production and mixing. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. What do I mean by that? From the very get-go, you need to be organised, and in several different ways. And the first way to be organised in record production, before we get to the mixing stage, is to know what instruments are going to be used, to know the structure of a song. It doesn't have to be fully laid out, and it can change as the arrangement goes through, with different ideas coming in or being dropped. But you do have to have an overall outlay, an idea of what is going to happen, so that when it comes to tracking, you're in full knowledge of what you're doing and you're not wasting time. Because if you're not in your own studio, which most of you probably will be watching this, but if you're not, then time is money, and you'll be wasting your money if you are not set and organised in your ways. You also have to bear in mind that you need to get the sounds right in production, in tracking, not waiting until mixing and trying to fix it in the mix. That does not work. You do need to have sounds that will complement each other in the tracking phase, and like pieces of a jigsaw, they'll fit together, and then when it comes to mixing, you're refining those sounds. You shouldn't leave it until mixing to actually create those sounds, because then you have what I call option paralysis. By that I mean that you have so many different options open to you that you get stuck and you can't make your mind up. Committing in record production is the most important thing you can do. So I would encourage everyone to take that on board. If you're just starting out and you're not really too sure about what to do, I would always encourage people to print the sounds that they've got. Get the sound right to your liking, but go with your gut instinct. Print it out, and then it's there and you can't change your mind. And then you work with what you've got. And you'll find that if you get into a routine where you're doing that, things will progress much quicker, and you'll also be happier because you can just move forward and not worry about having to change things later on. So we're going to check out what I've been talking about now. So let's go and check it out. Okay, so I'm in Reaper here, and this is my DAW. Your DAW may differ slightly from this one, but in essence they all do the same thing. Now I'm going to play through this song of mine called I Am Fire, and I'll leave a link to this song below in the description box in case you'd like to download it. I want you to listen to a couple of things while it's playing through. Now I'm going to play through the song in its entirety, and then I'm going to go through the different tracks, okay, the different sections individually, soloed, so that you can hear what is going on. I'm not going to talk at any time throughout this portion of the video, just so that we can focus on the sound of the song. I want you to listen to the sonics. So how does the arrangement sound? From the intro through to the verse, through to the chorus, the bridge and the outro. Have a listen to the structure of a song, because when it comes to record production, there are many different ways of writing a song, and this is why I've done it with this particular song, and depending on what kind of music it is, may also alter the type of arrangement you have. I also want you to listen, when I solo the different sections, listen to how the different sounds complement each other. So for instance, these guitars are all tracked independently, and that should always be the case. Never copy and paste, because you'll get lots of phasing issues and it will sound terrible. So always make sure you got your chops up to speed, track independently, and track with a different sound. So that could be a different guitar, definitely with a different cab or IR, possibly a different amp, okay, whether that be a physical amp or a digital one. Make sure that the sounds, as I mentioned earlier in the video, complement each other, fit in, because these four will make a whole. They're playing at the same time. Okay, this is the chorus. I then shape it when it comes to mixing, but these sounds need to fit from the very beginning. So listen out for that. So without any further delay, let's move on and listen to the song.
Burn, baby, burn.
Okay, so this is the next level of organisation. Now, in your DAW, you'll have your own way of doing it, which either if you're starting out, you're going to find out about, or you already know. In Reaper, this is how we do it. We have to get organised from the very beginning. So we have to create our own file organisation system. And this is what I've done here. And it goes right from the very beginning with the ideas that I had before mixing, which is what we have here. Okay, so these are all ideas that are building the arrangement. After that, once I have bounced all the tracks out, I then put them into this folder which I call tracks for mixing, and I also have the BPM so that I can set that straight away without having to worry about, okay, what BPM did I record that at? Okay, it's just another level of organisation. So if I come into here, you can see I've got all different tracks in each folder separately, so that I can just drag them in to the arrangement when I come to my mixing template, and I'm ready to go, because everything would have been put in to the arrangement at the right tempo, which I've got here, 140, and I know that because I've told myself that. Then we've got the SEPs. Okay, so these are the original SEPs coming from when I was doing the arrangement. Again, this is something that we need to do in Reaper, okay, and I like to be extremely organised up front, as you can see. This is the mixing template, so what you've been hearing here is the final mix, and these are the different levels of me going through the mix. And once I always start off with generally the bass guitar, guitars and drums, and then I go into the finer details along with these sections, build the mix for the arrangement until I get to the final one, which is here, number 14. And then at the end I have the final mix, so I've got two versions. I wanted to go through that because that is the other level of organisation. It might seem like a lot of work up front, but it's all part of being organised so that you can actually enjoy the process of mixing and tracking as well. And that's why I think it's really good in Reaper that we have to work this way, because it gets our minds focused to do it, and then our minds are focused on the job in hand, because we've had to be alert the whole time before we start getting into either tracking or mixing. Okay, so that is the organisational part of this video. If you're enjoying watching this video, please consider smashing that like button and subscribing to my channel so that I can keep on bringing this free content. Okay, so we're now going to look at the faders, the buses and the stereo bus, what plugins we're using and how that affects the mix. So let's go and check it out. Right, so these are the faders for the different sections of a song, and I'm going to start right on the far right on the master, so the stereo out. And I'm starting here because from the very beginning of mixing I actually have a lot of these plugins instantiated, so I'm actually mixing through these from the beginning. Now that's not everyone's cup of tea, but you have to work in a way that suits you. This is a system I've developed over many years. If you're starting out, you can take ideas like this, or you can mix with just a limiter on there. Okay, it really is down to you. You have to find your own way, and it takes time. YouTube is a great source for that kind of thing. Look around, pick up ideas, steal and incorporate. That is my motto. You take things that you like, that you hear other people doing, and I've been doing this methodology from the 1980s when I started out on like 4-track and things like that, taking ideas from other people who were more experienced than myself, or even less experienced, but came up with an idea that I thought was really good and something that I thought would fit into my own workflow. I encourage people to do that, but this is the way I do it. And I'll go through the plugins quickly that I've got on. I've got this Blitzen bus, and then I've got an SSL compressor, just lightly kissing the needle. Then I have this spam plugin, just so I can have a visual readout of what the mix is doing. Then I have a loudness meter. Now this is before, I have one before and one after, so I can see how hot the signal is going into these other plugins later on, especially the Ozone and the L2. After that, I've got this. Now I've got it set up so that if you're new to mixing and you're not too sure about how to get closer to what you might have heard on the radio. Now, with a analog mixing desk, what you would find is because the channels would heat up, triodes, electronics, all sorts of wiring going on, and they would heat up, and one channel to the next, to the next, to the next, that heat would increase. You had this kind of crossover of frequencies, and that's what gave it that kind of glued sound. We can mimic that with a plugin like this, and I'm not going to go into how you do it. There are probably videos out there where you can learn to do this. I call it my final mix setting, and basically I've just got it so that different levels of the mix are kind of crossing over into each other. Okay, so that's just a brief explanation of what's going on there. I don't start out mixing with Ozone and L2 instantiated, but I don't have this on either, T-Rax, but I do have this in, okay, and I can check the different frequencies. I can set the frequencies up here, then I can just solo and hear how each frequency is going on. This is a free plugin, so check out the name, Isolate. Would highly recommend you go and check it out because it really helps. It certainly helps me. Then I got another instance of spam because this will be after the Ozone L2 and the T-Rax, so the range would have changed. I have another Yulin loudness meter which will give me a different reading because it's going to be hotter. And then after that, from the very beginning, I'll have this instantiated. This is my room correction plugin. It's excellent. I have a small room here. There's a lot of bass build up and stuff like that. I'll quickly show you what it looks like when it's on. That is what my room looks like without this plugin instantiated. You can see all the peaks and dips here, yeah, and this just flattens everything out so that I can listen back without being influenced by negative hearing environment. That is how I start off at the end. And I'm briefly going to go through the rest of the plugins now, okay? It's going to be quite brief because I don't want to leave it too long. So this is the pre-master bus. So this will take the drums, all the other music, but the drums will go directly to this bus here, the pre-master bus. And on there I have Sound Brigade, which is kind of like a dynamic processor, dynamic EQ compressor. Then I've got MV2, just doing a little bit of parallel compression with that, and then a meter, VU meter. The bus before is where all the rest of the music goes, minus the drums. And again, very similar philosophy here with the plugins. Then as I go into the drums, I have the drum bus here, which will have the same thing going on. Okay, same thing, so you can see how I keep continuity with certain things. Then on a bus, for example like the kick bus here, I will put a channel strip on. And why have I not EQ'd these? Well, I've got these done as close as I can to what the sound I was looking for in production. So when it comes to mixing, I just it's easier just to have one plug-in, a channel strip. It could be any channel strip, doesn't have to be this, and then work from there and work on refining the sounds. Same thing going on with the snare. Same plug-in, channel strip, doing the same thing. I just have a very simple high-pass filter on the hi-hats to keep them out of the way of the low end. And then with the toms, again a little bit of a pass there, and then a compressor. And then something similar with overheads, with EQ, taking out all the low end. Okay, and then smashing the bullet. Now, if you're not sure what a bullet mic is, it's basically a microphone that's usually placed against a wall, and then you basically smash the hell out of it, sound-wise, that is. You don't smash it on the floor. And to replicate that, and it's always going to be a mono source. Okay, it's going to be a mono mic. You're going to put a compressor on it and just virtually limit it, yeah, and maybe put some distortion on it, and then you bring it in very subtly to add to the sound. And to replicate that from the analog world, I've got Decapitator on there. Okay, so moving forward or to the left, I've got loads going on the vocals here. I'm not going to go through all of this, but what I will say is that the vocal bus, I've got very minimal stuff going on, and then quite a lot of the time on the individual vocals I do have some stuff going on here. This is just the way I've done it in this song. It's not how I do it with every song, but have a look at I haven't got compression on every track. That's something that a lot of novices I notice make a mistake of, and you want to just fine increments of compression all the way through till this portion here, the final mix. You don't want to do just put a compressor here and then hope that everything's going to work together, because it won't. You have to do it in fine increments. Okay, so as you can see, lots going on. Then these come to here. This is the refrain in the song, and I've got echo on there with an EQ, so I'm giving it that kind of telephone type sound. On this section here on the chorus, then I am using it on a bus, so I've got the channel strip and then a compressor, then another compressor, and then a limiter. Okay, onto the bass the keys, I have nothing there. Everything has been recorded the way I wanted it to sound, so I haven't had to do anything in mixing here. Okay, apart from the strings bus, so where the strings are. Okay, but apart from that, I have not done anything, which is again a lesson. You don't always have to put plugins on every track. Bass guitar, again, just a channel strip at the end, and the same plugins as usual on the main bus there, and then with the guitars, same thing, same plugins on the main bus, and then channel strip on the individual sections, so chorus guitars, verse guitars, bridge guitars, stuff like that. On the soft guitars, same thing, and then the lead, obviously because it hasn't got a bus, but it has got an effects track next to it. Alright, okay, so this has just been a brief overview. It's been quite a long video, I know, but there's so much I could go on talking about this for weeks, because there's so much that goes into it. But I'm hoping that you may have got something out of this, and that you're a little bit more enlightened if you've just started out, and the more experienced of you may have picked up one or two nuggets that maybe you've forgotten or didn't know in the first place. If you have, fantastic. One thing I will say at the very end here, I'm just going to zoom in on this area. This is really important when it comes to record production and mixing. The volume for the overall song. So if you can see here, I'm going along, and then I've got a little raise in volume, and then I've got different levels of volume going on here. So nothing there, but plus 30 there, and this will be for the choruses. Okay, and then plus 35. Okay, so slowly incrementing, plus 25 for the first chorus. You're slowly, without it really being noticed, adding excitement to the song. Okay, that's just a little trick that I learnt many years ago, and passing it on to you in case you don't know it or you haven't thought about something like that. Right, so this has been an overview of how to go about record producing and mixing. It's not an in-depth video. It's been quite long, and it would have been much longer. I could talk about this for weeks, as I mentioned, There's so much that goes into it and the finer detail, but this is just an overview for those of you mainly who are just starting out, and this is how it's done in Reaper, but the general mixing philosophy will be the same for any DAW. But it does come down to personality and taste, and whether you're working on your own material, which a lot of you will be, or you're working with a client, then you will have your own way of working and clients will come to you based on your taste when it comes to mixing, what they think you can bring to the table. Okay, so I hope this has helped. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Sabs out.